At the 1972 Fulchester Bull Sales, a world record price was paid for Minos Merrick Mackenzie, an Aberdeen Angus bull bred by Colonel Ulrich McKeever. The buyer, Angelus de Costa, claims that the auction was rigged at his own instigation by a cattle dealer and agent, Gus Enderby, with Colonel McKeever's consent. Gus Enderby is now in the witness box.
Let me make myself quite clear, Colonel McKeever. This is the last occasion in which I will tolerate any interruption.
Yes, I know I'm sorry, my lord, but it was just hearing myself slandered by this pipsqueak.
Your turn to give evidence will come. Until then, will you please remain silent?
Well, yes, I do apologize and mum's the word from now on.
Very well. Continue, please, Mr. Dealey.
My lord. Well, Mr. Enderby, it would seem from the Colonel's outburst that he doesn't believe your story of your meeting in the Salutation Fulchester.
Well, he's wrong then, sir, isn't he? Because he was there in company with me and Mr. de Costa, sir.
Where you discussed the rigging of this auction.
Correct, sir.
Now, who first proposed this to you, Colonel McKeever or Senor de Costa?
Mr. de Costa, sir.
And you know Senor de Costa well, do you not?
Oh, yes, sir. Well, I mean, everybody in the livestock business knows Mr. de Costa, sir.
And were you at this time acquainted with Colonel McKeever?
Yes, sir, I was.
Now, how did Senor de Costa first approach this question of rigging the auction?
Well, he was quite straightforward about it, sir.
Can you remember Senor de Costa's exact words?
Well, no, I don't know about exactly, my lord, no.
Well, then, as near as you can, Mr. Enderby, please.
Well, my lord, it was like this. Mr. de Costa was buying me a drink at the time, and he happened to say, here, he said, I know what's going to win the show, which was the next day, you understand, my lord. So I said something like, what then? And he said, Minos Merrick, the Colonel's bull. Well, I knew the animal, sir, and I knew it stood a very good chance, sir. So then Mr. de Costa said to me, he said, Gus, he said, I'm going to buy that bull, he said, and I'm going to make it the most valuable bull in the world. Will you help me, Gus? You see, well, what could I do, sir, you know? So I said to him, how far do you want me to go? And he said 64,000, sir. And he said, if anybody's left in the bidding, then, he said, then we'll stay in until we lost them.
And all of this was said in front of Colonel McKeever?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
He couldn't have failed to have heard this conversation?
No, sir. In fact, he pointed at me, sir, and he said, I hope the bugger knows when to stop. He said, beg your pardon, no.
The Colonel said that, did he?
Well, that was almost exactly his words, my lord. He's got a very dry sense of humour, the Colonel, sir.
Now, is there any possibility, in your opinion, that the Colonel could have misunderstood the drift of this conversation?
No, sir, no.
Was the Colonel further away from you than Senor de Costa?
No, sir, we was just stood there, sir, you know, three blokes having a drink. You know the way it is, sir.
Yes. Now, was there anything said about the real price of the bull? How much Senor de Costa was paying Colonel McKeever for the animal?
Yes, sir. Mr. de Costa said he'd agreed to buy the bull for 17,000, sir.
Was this also said in front of Colonel McKeever?
That's right, sir, just before he went out for a Jimmy Riddle, sir.
What? Oh. Yes.
Now, did Senor de Costa offer to pay you for your trouble?
Yes, sir. He offered me 25 quid, sir.
Did you accept that sum?
No, sir, I did not. I said I want 50.
And what was the figure finally agreed upon?
50 quid, sir.
Now, what happened at the auction?
Well, sir, the bidding went up to 10,000 guineas, you know, pretty fast, and then people started dropping out, you know, it is, sir. Then there was this Australian buyer I know and a couple of others. They stayed in to round about 35,000 guineas, and then from then on, it was just me and Mr. de Costa, sir.
And you went on up to 64,000?
That's right, sir, yep.
And Senor de Costa finally got the bull for 65?
That's right, sir.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mr. Enderby, you've had dealings with Senor de Costa in the past, haven't you?
Oh, yes, sir. Well, I've sold stock to him on many occasions over the years, sir.
Now, what is your opinion of him as a businessman?
Well, sir, I'll put it like this, sir. He's a bit of a gambler. You know what I mean? He likes to back his hunches, you know. He's a tough man in a deal, but they all are, sir. You know. No, he's all right, sir. He's okay.
You also said that you'd had dealings with Colonel McKeever in the past.
Yes, sir. Twice, actually. Once successfully and once not.
What happened on the unsuccessful occasion?
Well, you got to watch yourself with the Colonel, sir. I mean, he'd nick your fillings while you were still talking to him if you gave him the chance. I have heard tell by people that his ancestors were cattle thieves, sir. Well, it don't surprise me, because he's a tartan bandit, if you ask...
Yes, Mr. Enderby. You are not here to give us your opinion of the characters of the parties concerned. You must confine yourself to the facts.
Sorry.
And I think that you should have the opportunity of cross-examining on this matter, Mr. Parsons, since the cat, as you might say, is now out of the bag.
As your lordship pleases.
Mr. Enderby, in view of your opinion of the Colonel's reputation, were you not surprised that Senor da Costa should have entered into such an agreement with him?
I was, sir. Yes, I was, yes.
Were you surprised at the subsequent events?
What, you mean the Colonel nicking the money, sir? No, I wasn't really, sir. As a matter of fact, sir, I thought Mr. da Costa was a bit of a mug, sir, but that was none of my business, sir, was it?
Thank you, Mr. Enderby. I have no further questions.
Mr. Enderby, you were not surprised when Senor da Costa approached you with his little business proposition.
Well, no, not particularly, sir, no.
Has Senor da Costa ever asked you to perform such a service before?
No, sir.
You sure?
Oh, yes, sir.
In that case, I am very surprised myself at your lack of surprise. Unless, of course, you are so used to clients approaching with dubious propositions.
My lord,
Yes, Mr. Enderby?
have I got to stand here and be insulted?
No, Mr. Enderby. All you have to do is to tell the truth.
Now let's turn to this remarkable conversation you allege took place in the bar of the Salutation Hotel in Fulchester. You have told the jury that Senor da Costa, in the company of Colonel McKeever, approached you about their plans to make Minas Merrick Mackenzie the most valuable bull in the world.
Mr. da Costa did, sir. The Colonel left the details to him. I mean, it was Mr. da Costa's scheme, sir.
Quite. But you stood there like three blokes having a drink, you
That's
said.
right, sir, yes.
Now, this was on the day before the show, was it not?
Yes, sir.
Now, the Fulchester show is quite famous, is it not?
Oh, yes, sir, yes.
And the subsequent bull sales.
Yes, sir. Well, buyers and breeders, they come from all over the world for that, sir.
Yes, so Fulchester must have been very busy at that time.
That it is, sir, yes. Yeah. In fact, it's very difficult to get a room at that time, sir. You know, Fulchester's pretty jam-packed around then, sir.
Yes, and presumably all these people are not teetotal.
I don't think I understand what you mean, sir.
Well, you see, what I'm trying to say, Mr. Enderby, is that the Salutation Hotel must have been very crowded.
Well, yeah, there were a few other people there, sir, yeah.
Yes, other buyers?
Well, some of them, I suppose, sir.
Yes. And you are seriously asking the jury to believe that the shrewd Senor da Costa should approach you the day before the auction was due to take place in a bar crowded with other buyers?
That's the way it happened, sir.
Is it, Mr. Enderby? I don't doubt that the auction was rigged. Both you and Senor da Costa have admitted to that. But what I find very hard to believe, that Senor da Costa, in the company of Colonel McKeever, should put his proposition in such circumstances.
Well, he did, sir.
I find it even harder to believe that if Senor da Costa had agreed a price with Colonel McKeever, that he would have told you about it.
Well, he did tell me, sir, and the figure was 17,000 guineas, sir.
Now, you've said you had business dealings with Colonel McKeever on 2 occasions in the past.
That's right, sir.
Now, what were the circumstances?
Well, like I said, sir, the first time I got some offers for a client from the Colonel, and the second time we didn't manage to do a deal, sir.
Now, why did you fail to do a deal?
Well, it just did, sir.
Now, is it not true that Colonel McKeever terminated the transaction?
Yeah, maybe, sir, yeah.
And is it not true that Colonel McKeever terminated the transaction because you lied to him about the identity of the clients you were dealing for?
Now, look, sir, I mean, they were his cattle to do what he wished with, sir. But, I mean, who I was representing was no concern of his, sir.
Did not Colonel McKeever forcibly throw you off his farm?
No, I don't know about forcibly, sir. I don't know about forcibly. He shouted a lot, but he always does do. But like he said, sir, it's got nothing to do with him and Mr. da Costa, sir.
I put it to him, Mr. Enderby, that ever since Colonel McKeever threw you off his farm, you've been trying to get back at him.
Ah, rubbish, sir. Now, look, sir, in this business, you've got to be a bit thick-skinned, haven't you, sir? I mean, if I was to go around getting equal with everybody who'd ever shouted at me, well, I'd need all the blinking mafia going round with me, sir, wouldn't I?
Come now, Mr. Enderby, hasn't your whole evidence been merely an attempt to settle an old score with the Colonel?
No, sir.
I put it to you, Mr. Enderby, there is not one word of truth in your evidence about the sale of this bull for 17,000 guineas.
No, sir.
No further questions, my lord.
Mr. Enderby, when did all this childish nonsense with the Colonel occur?
Oh, I think it was about 3 years ago, sir.
And it simply arose out of the question of the clients that you were representing.
That's right, sir. See, I was representing Seaforth Farms. That's an American firm, my lord. Only the Colonel and old Bill Shanklin, who runs C4 Fund, well, they haven't spoken to each other for about 20 years, and the Colonel refuses to do any business with him. Well, now, Mr. Shanklin wanted to get hold of some of the Colonel's efforts, you see, so I had to go for him. And the Colonel finds out, and he does his nuts, sir.
And of course you've held a grudge against him ever since.
Oh, no. Well, that'd be daft, sir, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be daft? I mean, here I am in court giving evidence on oath, sir. I mean, I'm not going to risk a charge of perjury just to get even with old Will Fife over there, over half a dozen stupid efforts. So I'd be round a twist to do that, sir, wouldn't I?
Yes, indeed, Mr. Enderby. Yes, indeed. Thank you.
You may leave the box.
That, my lord, concludes the case for the plaintiff.
My lord, the first witness for the defence is the defendant himself, Colonel Ulrich McKeever.
What is your religion?
The original secessionist Kirk and pacifist.
Pacifist.
That's what I said, my lord. Pacifist.
You are Colonel Ulrich Douglas McKeever of Dalriada. Is it Dalriada or Dalriada Estate?
Dalriada.
Dalriada Estates, Wigtonshire.
That is correct.
And you are the breeder of the bull Minas Merrick Mackenzie of Dalriada.
Aye. Finest bull I ever bred. A superb animal, until he got his hands on it.
Yes. It would be true to say, would it not, that Minas Merrick is the greatest achievement of your career as a breeder?
To date, yes.
Yes. Now, when you entered it for the Fulster show, did you expect it to win?
Never a doubt in my mind.
What sort of price did you think it would fetch?
Oh, a very good one. No doubt about that. No doubt at all. In fact, I thought as a winner he'd fetch 25,000 guineas, maybe more.
Yes. Now, did Senator Costa come up to your farm to have a look at this bull?
Oh, yes. Practically fell in love with it, did it? Said, never seen a bull like it, which I have no doubt was true.
Yes. And did he offer to buy the bull there and then?
Aye. 17 or 18,000 he offered me, but I said no. I wanted to see what he'd make in the sale. And that seemed to get him all stirred up. He's a very emotional man, is Mr. Da Costa.
Yes. And did he raise his offer?
No, he said putting Dougal in the sale was a...
Dougal?
Yes, my lord, that was my pet name for the beast.
The bull.
Aye. So he said putting Dougal in the sale was an excellent idea, because then everyone would know that he had bought the finest bull in the world. And I said, for everyone to know that, Dougal would have to fetch a great deal of money. And he replied that he would see to that.
Yes, and as we know, he subsequently rigged the auction.
Aye. Well, of course, it wasn't my place to stop him. If he wanted to throw his money about, that was up to him. I certainly wasn't going to turn up my nose at 65,000 guineas.
No, indeed. Now, was there ever at any time any verbal agreement between you for you to return any of the money received from the auction?
No. Now, look, the truth is, Da Costa is the sort of chap who cannot abide to have second best. That's why he must have the most expensive bull in the world. He must have the largest yacht. He must have the blonde with the biggest...
The witness will refrain from personal comment.
Oh, that's going to make it a bit difficult, my lord.
Nonetheless, you will do so.
All righty-ho. I'll try. I'll do my best.
Now, did you meet Senator Costa and Mr. Enderby in the bar of the Salutation Hotel to discuss the rigging of this auction?
No, I did not. I met Da Costa a couple of times in the Salutation. But after my previous experience with Mr. Enderby, I didn't say it, my lord, I wouldn't meet him on the last bus to paradise.
Yes, so at no time did you have a drink with or a conversation with Mr. Enderby in the company of Senator Costa?
Neither in nor out of his company.
Thank you. Now, before you sold the bull, had you reason to be satisfied with his performance as a stock-getter?
Well, of course. He fathered 2 calves on my farm before he was entered for the show.
Now, can you explain why Minas Merrick Mackenzie should now be infertile?
If he really is.
Well, you dispute the fact.
Well, with Mr. Da Costa, I would dispute anything until I'd seen it with my own eyes.
But is there any reason you can think of why a bull should suddenly become infertile?
Aye, damn bad animal management. You see, Mr. Da Costa thinks he is the greatest expert on breeding since Noah. Well, he's not.
Now, was Minos Merrick examined by your own vet before he left for the Fulchester show?
Hey,
And did he do a semen test at that time?
not at that time, no.
Now, why not?
Because the potency of a male animal, any male animal, you or I, or his lordship even, it varies from day to day, from week to week. That's why some days a young fella practically only has to look at a lassie to put on the pudding club. Whereas other times, well, he couldn't beget stock even if you fed him Spanish Fly or Blue
Yes,
Movies.
quite, Colonel McKeever.
No,
What I really...
let me finish. All a semen test really proves is that on the day of the test, that particular bull is likely or unlikely, as the case may be, to beget stock. That's all.
I see. But if the semen tests are consistently negative, what then?
Ah, well, yes, then you've got trouble.
Now, I suggested earlier in my cross-examination of Senator Costa that many of these pedigree show bulls are no more than biological freaks. Would you agree with that?
What do you mean, no more than? Of course they are biological freaks. They are pure-blooded, beautiful beasts bred to produce the finest beef. They are nature's aristocrats.
Colonel McKeever, it would be true to say, would it not, that you are one of the most successful breeders of Aberdeen Angus in Britain today?
Yes, of course I would. I got the best price for one of my bulls ever paid in the history of the world. He paid it.
Yes, but that is an exceptional price, Colonel, wasn't it? What would be the average price you would expect for a pedigree bull?
About 1,500 guineas. But there again, the price varies widely. Last year, for instance, the top price I got for one of my bulls was 21,000.
Yes, and your breed is well known to the agricultural community.
Oh, yes.
Now, have you ever been involved in any court case where either the quality of your herd or your own personal honesty have been brought into question?
Never.
Thank you, Colonel McKeever.
Colonel McKeever, do you have other business interests apart from cattle breeding?
Eh? Oh, what's that got to do with anything?
Please answer the question, Colonel McKeever.
Yes, I have various business interests.
You were a director, were you not, of a property company, Lampito Property Development.
That's right.
And 2 years ago, this company went into voluntary liquidation, did it not?
Aye.
Now, what was the size of your holding in that company in money terms?
About £75,000.
And what was the extent of your own personal financial loss?
About £75,000.
So you lost everything then?
Obviously.
At approximately the same time, you were also, were you not, divorced by your wife?
Well, I wouldn't be divorced by her brother, would I?
Colonel McKeever.
I'm sorry, my lord.
Well, according to the newspaper reports, you were required to make a sizable financial settlement upon your wife as a result of this divorce.
Yes, it was iniquitous.
How large was this settlement?
£24,000.
Well, that, unless my arithmetic has let me down, amounts to £99,000, does it not?
That's right.
And at the time of the divorce, again, according to the newspaper reports, your counsel pleaded for a smaller settlement on the grounds that you had recently suffered considerable losses in stock market dealings.
These were exaggerated.
Do you mean you lied to the divorce court, Colonel?
No, of course not. I mean, it's all a question of perspective.
Perspective?
Yes. I mean, the question of one's finances are relative to the overall financial picture.
Well, how large were your relative stock market losses?
About £15,000.
So without perspective, it would be true to say that, would it not, that 2 years ago you had lost approximately £114,000?
That's right.
So at the time that Senator Costa approached you to buy Minos Merrick Mackenzie, your financial situation was, well, to put it mildly, unhappy.
Oh, I could still afford to pay the feed bill, if that's what you mean.
That isn't what I mean, Colonel. What was the state of your bank balance when Senator Costa approached you in January?
Oh, I can't remember exactly.
Well, were you in credit at the bank, or did you have an overdraft?
Half the time, most farmers operate on overdrafts.
Yes, but did you at that point in time?
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, I did.
So Senator Costa coming to you wanting to buy the most expensive bull in the world was an answer to your prayer, wasn't it?
I'm not in the habit of praying for that sort of thing.
It was merely a figure of speech, Colonel. Let me put it another way.
No, let me save you the trouble. I was delighted to see Da Costa. The 65,000 guineas was very acceptable.
Yes, I'm sure it was. Particularly when you saw the chance to make an extra £45,000 the difference between the 17,000 guineas that Senor da Costa had bought the bull for and the artificially high sale price.
Now look here. I did not agree to sell da Costa my bull for 17,000. Why the hell should I, when I stood to make a damn sight more for him in the auction?
But that wasn't certain, was it, Colonel? You couldn't guarantee that your bull would even fetch £10,000.
Ah, laddie, a beast like that was bound to make big money.
Yet you yourself have admitted that the average price fetched for your bulls is around 1,500 guineas.
Yes, that's ordinary bulls. That's not a prince like Dougal.
An impotent prince, it would seem.
We only have his word for that.
And Senor da Costa's vet's report.
Oh, a damn Dago vet who'll be under contract to him. He'll be in his pocket, rest assured.
Well, I see from the list that your vet, Mr. Shipton, is the next witness. Is he in your pocket?
He is a Scotsman, sir.
You are familiar, are you not, with Minos Merrick Mackenzie's pedigree?
Am I? Well, of course I am. I planned it.
My lord, you will find the pedigree among the plaintiff's bundle of documents, page 4.
Yes, I have it, Mr. Delia.
Well, to a mere novice, it would seem to me that a number of Merrick's ancestors were related.
Of course they are.
Well, this implies, does it not, a certain amount of inbreeding?
Of course it does. There always is a certain amount of inbreeding in all good pedigree animals.
Well, Dr. Gutzman, Senor da Costa's vet, in his report suggests there might have been too much inbreeding.
Then he's a blether. You only have to look at Dougal to see that there is a classic bull.
There's an old Scottish farming saying, is there not? That if it works, it's line breeding. If it doesn't work, it's inbreeding.
Aye, that's true.
Well, in the case of Minos Merrick Mackenzie, it would seem to be too much inbreeding.
No. Whatever's wrong with that bull, if there is anything wrong, is his fault.
Nevertheless, it is true, is it not, that one of the many causes for a bull's infertility is inbreeding?
Aye.
Colonel McKeever, you've heard Senor da Costa speak of Minos Merrick Mackenzie going down on his knees to suckle the home car instead of mounting her.
Yes, I heard it.
Have you come across such behaviour before?
Oh, I've heard of it before.
Could you please explain such behaviour to the court?
It simply means that the bull has been kept on milk longer than usual.
Now, why should a breeder want to do that?
To put weight on the animal, to give him a nice curly coat. Doesn't do the bull any harm, quite the contrary.
Had Minos Merrick Mackenzie been kept on milk up until the show?
What?
Had Minos Merrick Mackenzie been kept on milk up until the show?
Yes, but the fact that he suckled at the cow doesn't mean to say he couldn't have mounted her.
Apparently, Colonel, he didn't.
That's his story.
No further questions, my lord.
Colonel McKeever, what is the approximate value of your herd and farm?
About £250,000. Perhaps more in view of the present price of land.
Yes, and if it was found out that you had sold and bred an infertile bull, what effect would that have on your reputation as a breeder?
Not very good. Every breeder has his failures from time to time, but they usually manage to keep it quiet. But a really big public failure could cause a lot of buyers to doubt your judgment as a breeder.
In fact, it would cost you money.
Oh, yes.
It would damage the reputation of your herd.
Would indeed.
Now, would 65,000 guineas, however obtained, recompense you for this loss of prestige?
Well, in cattle breeding, prestige and finance go hand in hand. A successful breeder makes money, lose your reputation, and you lose money.
Yes, and in view of the capital invested in your farm, would 65,000 guineas go any way towards covering any financial loss?
$250,000 might, but not 65,000. Now look here. I did not try to trick da Costa out of his money. I didn't try to sell him an infertile bull. There would be no sense in it.
Thank you, Colonel.
The case of Da Costa against McKeever will be resumed tomorrow in the Crown Court.